Hey, let's talk about another one of the basic things I think you need to know about as a bass player. And we don't talk about these sorts of things that often because it seems like such a basic subject, but we're going to talk about setting your amp. And I think that's one of those things that as a beginning bass player, you're not sure what to do. Sometimes you start doing all kinds of crazy things with the EQ and you have a really horrible bass sound. Or you get lost in the mix. So let's just take a few minutes and I'm going to tell you a few things that I've found over the years of setting your amp to A, cut through the mix, and B, sound awesome. Okay. So what we have is the amp I'm playing through right now, which is a Peavey Viper VIP2. Which is just a cheap little practice amp. In fact, I think I paid $80 for this amp, and it needed a little repair work, but we got her going again. And the amp has the ability to have some different presets, and for the bass it has 4 different presets. And I'm going to show you what presets I would use in a gigging situation if I had this luxury. And if I didn't, if I was just running a straight amp, this is what I would do. So this is what I would call your basic bass sound. And one thing you're going to notice is the EQ is set flat. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that bass players make, is they start adding all sorts of EQ to their sound, and then they wonder why they don't cut through the mix. It's because they have taken all of the mids and highs out of their tone. Or they jack the bass up, the bass control up, and then they try to jack everything else up to compensate for it. One of the best bass one of my favorite bass players was a local guy. His name was Tim, and he had a great bass sound, and this was his secret. He used a flat EQ, and you can hear what this sounds like. It's just a good, robust sound that will really cut through a mix. I have my bass set to sound kind of like a jazz bass. So what I would say is, that's the first thing to do. Start with your amp flat and turn your volume up loud enough to where you can hear yourself in the mix. And then you may fine tune it. And what I found is generally after that, your fine tuning is going to come on your bass. You can roll the tone back. You can get a totally different sound by just rolling the tone back or playing closer to the bridge, playing closer to the neck. You can change the way you play and make your sound different. So another sound that I like to use if I have the luxury, it's the same, basically same EQ, except it's just a bass sound with a chorus, For certain things, a slow song, that's a good sound to use. Or if you do any sort of chordal work, it's a neat sound to use. Another sound I'll use a lot is a distorted sound. If I'm playing a rock sound, this will be just my main sound. And you can it's really basically a rip-off of Geddy Lee's sounds, It's basically that Chris Squire Geddy Lee sound. So you'll basically add, I don't know what this amp is called. It's a tube screamer or a fuzz. I'm not sure which one it is. But for years, when I just had I was running a straight bass amp, I would use a Sans amp to get that sound. And that does a great job. So if that's the only sound you really need, that's a good way to get it. And the other thing I like to have is a envelope filter. And they're just a lot of fun. If you play anything funky, That's an added thing in. But the main thing I want to get across here is, you set your amp flat and see what that sounds like. So like I said, sometimes you may play that soloed and you might think, yeah, I don't really care for that sound as much. Especially it's a P bass setting, so and it's pretty in your face, but you'll find that in a mix can really sound great. So if you have any comments about that, let me know. Thanks.